Hello, thanks for tuning in. And today we're going to finish off chapter 1 for Nerus. And Lisa and Body are about to leave the island and about to go on the ship. And the abbots, as well as the monks, are about to go on the ship as well. So, both Body and Lisa are going to finish off their investigation on this boat ride back home and see who the murderer is. After leaving their belongings in their cabin, the two investigators discussed what will come next, expecting the abbots' quarters wouldn't be possible as long as they were holed up in them, but Body seemed to have an idea. While he worked on that, Elisa roamed the ship without direction, not paying attention to her surroundings except to evade the occasional seamen that passed her by. She was submerged deep in her thoughts and yet drawing a blank. It was then that she noticed Frank waving at her. Alois wasn't nearby. "Hello, Alicia. Forgive me if I'm being rude, but are you alright?" "Of course. I just saw you walking around with your head hanging low and that long face, and I wondered if something was wrong." Sorry. It's alright." Alicia crossed her arms over the wooden railing and looked out to the sea. It seemed like clouds were gathering, so they wouldn't be hit by a storm. Nothing happened. There's just a lot in my mind, and I don't know what to do with it. "What do you mean?" Lisa wanted to take this off her chest, and considering she probably wouldn't see him again soon, she figured Frank will fill the role of listener nicely. She remained silent for a few seconds. Frank leaned on the railing as well and looked at her, patiently waiting. "Have you ever felt like you are burdening someone else?" "I can't say I have, no." "Why are you asking?" "I'm starting to realize that's how it is between me and Bidey. We aren't just co-workers. He raised me, but I'm not his real daughter. He just adopted me after my mother passed away. Or it would be more accurate to say my real father served me in his arms and ran." At least it clicked her tongue, although my real dad was also missing by then. Anyway, he's the one who originally asked Bidey to take care of me if something happened to Mom. I think they were childhood friends. They lived similar experiences, having come from blessed families and running away from home. Lisa shook her head. "Anyway, I think I have been getting in his way. Between a child that raised in his line of work, I imagine he must not have had a lot of time to make his own life." "Make his own life?" "Yes, for instance." Lisa did a gesture with her hand as she looked for the right words. "For instance, pursuing a hobby, or maybe having a love life?" "Yes, I realize Body doesn't have many friends anymore. When he meets with people, it's actually very superficial. Maybe he hadn't had to invest so much time in me." "Alicia." Frank had interrupted her. His smile was gone, and although she couldn't see his eyes, Alicia felt pierced by his gaze. Yet his words came out in his usual sweet tone of voice. "If I had the correct impression on Body, he's the kind of person that makes choices and lives with them. If he promised your father that he'd take care of you, then I don't think he has regretted it a single day of his life. He already made his life and chose to include you in it. You aren't a burden." "Oh?" "I think he must want the same for you. Parents are like that. They tend to serve their lifestyle on their children without thinking. But you'd be sad if you start regretting your time together, so don't. You should show him your support as you notice he wants to make some changes to his life instead." At least he squinted at the young monk. "I think you're right. Body is like that. He also always behaves like he knows something you don't, even when he is just as lost as I am. That sounds like someone I know." "Does Alois do that too?" "Him? Not at all. Aloys is the kind of player that keeps a stoic poker face rather than a smug one. What about you, Frank? Me? The monk crossed his arms and hummed loudly. I don't know how to explain it in terms of a card game. Lisa chuckled and took a glance at the sea. I think I figured it out. You're the kind of player that plays with a rigged deck. You remember the little marks and scratches each card has, and then you pretend it was all luck when you win. Hey, that's mean. It sounds like you are making me pass for some shady kind of guy. I don't mean any offense. All I mean is that you are more attentive than you look. There are merits to that. You would make a fine investigator. Thanks. You sure remind me of. She stopped herself for an instant, but finally decided to go ahead. You remind me of this dream I have every once in a while. Dream? Ever since Monday I've had this strange dreams. Like I'm in the shoes of someone else and there are other people that seem familiar. I have seen myself in them, and Dad, my brother, and my grandmother. But a lot of the time it's people I don't know. But there's one dream that stands out. Frank leaned forward a little, showing interest even through his mask. I'm in a dark place and there is this boy. He's blessed. He looks like a lizard, but I can't pinpoint what kind. It's not a species I know. He has these feathers. We play and have fun together. But then he gives me this sad look like he wants to say something. Or maybe he's waiting for me to realize something. I don't know. You remind me a bit of that boy. There was silence and then a chuckle escaped Frank's lips this time. So he took his mask and removed it. He turned to Elisa, that naive joy having returned completely to him. Who knows, Elisa? Maybe the two of us have a lot in common after all. Yeah, maybe. Elisa turned to the sea again. The two of them remained there in silence for a long time. Bobby had managed to convince the captain to hold a small banquet that night. The crocodile had seen where he noticed clouds accumulating as a storm would put a halt to his plan, but all that fell that night was a gentle rain. The sea was undisturbed. Nog wouldn't let his elemental assault a vessel with two of his precious monks. The seamen and the passengers both were invited to join the banquet at the communal area on the gun deck. Elisa had considered skipping the event, but Buddy dragged her out with him. Like Buddy expected, the abbots had decided to attend. It looked awkward among the big, sweaty men, but they could probably bear with it as long as they didn't starve in their cabins. The Notmonks and the hunters were there as well. The investigators sat down and started to dig in. Elisa was distracted looking at the cannons when Buddy tapped her shoulder. Are you ready? Rather than answering, Elisa reached out to one of the nearby places and started digging in. The plan was for Elisa to eat and pretend to get sick. She would ask one of the seamen to take her outside and then she would return to her cabin. Buddy would keep watch on the abbots and stop them if he noticed them doing something suspicious. The hybrid woman initially thought it was a great plan, but with the quality of the ship's cooking, she thought she might fall ill for real. A few minutes later, she got up from her seat, holding her stomach with a consternated expression. She spoke to one of the nearby seamen. Excuse me, could you escort me outside? Something I ate must have made my stomach upset. Sure thing, lass. Come this way. Alicia spent a few minutes pretending to be on the brink of puking, after which she told the seamen she would retire to her quarters for the night. She returned to the gun deck and she made her way to the passenger cabins. Here we are. Which quarters should I expect first? I should assume I don't have much time, so I need to decide who is more suspicious. This is my wandering back to the torn glove Bernardo had found in Brandis' cell. They still didn't know what that was about, or it even bore a relationship to the case. Even didn't see heroin to that thread. There was no evidence pointing towards any individual Abbott being more suspicious than the other. All she had was that one unexplained piece of evidence. And so she decided to start with Brandis' quarters. If anybody missing, he saw Brandis come out of this room. Such a fancy cabin compared to ours, and he seemed to be sharing it with another one of the Abbotts. Lisa proceeded to inspect every nook and cranny of the room. She looked inside the cells, over and under the table, felt about the seats, turned the pillows over, and searched beneath the beds. The search didn't bear any fruits. It's no use. I can't think of anywhere else where they hide the file. Either Brandis doesn't have it after all, or he always moved it to a different location. That would be too troublesome. Do I even have enough time to search another cabin? I should try either way. Lisa stood up, determined to continue her search, when she noticed something that made her gasp. There, on one of the nightstands, was a book titled The Snake's Cry. She walked up and held it as if it was something delicate. This is the title of the book that was missing from Oscar's cell. Throwing away any sense of delicacy, Elisa opened the book, turned it upside down, and began singing it. Soon something fell from between its pages. She tossed it on the bed. It was a single yellow folder. Her hands grasped it with strength as he tried to tear it apart, but the white chains of the seal of preservation appeared over the folder's surface, preventing her from doing so. Yes, this is it. I really would like to read it, but first I need to get out of here before I am discovered. Lisa placed the book back where she found it and fled the cabin. I suppose I should wait for Bobby in our cabin, but whenever the Abbotts come here and notice the file is gone. Shall I go back to Bobby now? Shall I take the file with me? Lisa noticed her vision getting blurry. She looked down at her hand, which seemed to leave after images behind it as she moved it. She lowered her head and trembled as the loud explosion resonated from somewhere outside the cabins. Slowly she opened her eyes and looked around. Thunder? No, that's not it. It's like when Georgia and Oscar died. But that wasn't all. There was something more sinister in the air this time. A smell like that of the smoke made her nose wrinkle. She entered her quarters, hid the file inside her sheets, and sprinted out of the cabin. Out of the passenger cabins. Here it comes. The rebel started chanting under his breath as he moved his hand in circles over a cup filled with water. It started to tremble as if shaking nervously for being under the gaze of all the seamen, the Abbotts, and the hunters. Alois then raised his hand, and in one sharp motion the cup's contents flew up. They split in thousands of little drops, which spun around the rebel's hand before withdrawing into a bigger water sphere. The seamen clapped and shouted praise, making the rebel jump a little and almost dropped the sphere. Alvaro crossed his arms and smirked. Very impressive, Alois. You're still using too much preparation, but you've come so far since we first brought you into the Abbey. I always knew you had the potential for water magic. See, I wish all of you were present for the fire a few nights ago. This is a child's play compared to the masterful display of magic from that night. Thank you, sir. You know, Alvaro, if your kids are so talented, maybe you could get them to send the storm away. Excuse me? I'm just saying, it's so inconvenient that it has to rain just as we make our way back to the mainland. Can you do something to make your deity angry? Please, what about yours? Isn't Key supposed to protect travelers? How come she didn't prevent the rain? Besides, calling a storm is quite an exaggeration, don't you think? There are keys of reason the sea is being so kind to us now. Ridiculous. The sea is not so many after all. The two arrows continued bickering, the size of their clashing eagles so great it seemed to pull everyone's attention toward them. With a sigh, Lois returned the warfare to his cup. The crowd dispersed and everyone returned to their seats. Buddy watched the scene in silence. The gun deck's communal area counted with 3 long tables. The first one was occupied by the captain, the 4 main abbots, and 3 of his mates. The 2 knock monks were sitting at a table with the 3 hunters and the 4th mate. The last table was occupied by Buddy and some seamen. I hope Elisa finds that file. If we can't get a hold of it by the time we reach land, we might be forced to let the culprit go. I'm sorry, Elisa, but if we make a move too soon, this could turn to a bloodbath. It's safer if I don't let anyone know yet, not even you. Nerus had finished eating a while ago and were now finishing their wine bottle. But had taunted his uncle and managed to get him to convince Alois to do that trick. He still had some ideas to buy Elisa time. That's an impressive display of magic, Alois, but I still think your talents are wasted at the old men's church if you ask me. Buddy shouted from his seat. Alvaro frowned and now Nora and Luca stood up. Excuse me? I've been watching you these last few days and I think you're a smart kid. You will probably find success in my line of work. I don't know what you're playing at, Buddy, but don't try to fill the kid's head with nonsense. But it is an interesting idea, is it not? Indeed. I mean, Alvaro has been pressing you into getting better at magic and has neglected your other talents. Let's perform a little test. Buddy shifted on the bench to face the other 2 tables. Alois and Navarro both got up and walked closer to the detective. This is a case I heard from a police officer. I want you to tell me what you think the solution is. This happened a few years ago during a museum excursion. This young man, who was the son of a local entrepreneur and his brother, were attending the exhibit that day. Let's call the younger brother John and the older one Dan. They were being accompanied by some of their friends from the other rich families. At some point after the main excursion ended, the group dispersed to wander around their favorite parts of the exhibition. Just a few minutes after this, Dan came to the museum's authorities to complain one of the rooms he wanted to access was now locked off. They opened the door and inside they found John's first corpse collapsed on the floor. They immediately called the police and an investigation began. The murder weapon and cause of death were easy to determine. Someone had opened one of the cases containing a small but weighty statue and hit John on the head with it. It had taken him a few hits to kick the bucket. Although they recovered the murder weapon, it looked like the culprit had grabbed it using a piece of fabric and they were unable to recover the fingerprints from it. The piece of fabric was recovered later and was one of the pieces of evidence that proved the perpetrator's guilt, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The prime suspect was originally the older brother, but who now enjoyed a larger share of his father's inheritance. However, he was disregarded very quickly as he lacked the tools necessary to create the conditions of the crime scene. Namely, he couldn't have unlocked the case or unlocked the door. Naturally, this meant the employees of the museum were the most likely perpetrators. This led to an interesting discovery that day at the museum. A girl that knew both of the boys was working herself. She was employed by their father at one of his businesses, and the 3 of them had met in the past. Let's call her Martha. The police looked into Martha's relationship with the victim. Some of her co-workers testified that she and John met very often and might have been having a relationship behind her father's back. So the main theory at the time became that something had gone awry with their relationship and that precipitated Martha to kill John. She didn't have anything to gain from his death after all. So, what do you think may happen? Buddy turned to Varro first. The older crocodile crossed his arms and nodded. Not even I would think a young lady capable of killing her lover at impulse. There must be another explanation. What I find more likely is that someone was trying to get back at John's father. You inevitably make many enemies when you make it big after all. It's probably one of the other employees. I couldn't tell you who, but I don't doubt the police will discover it after looking into all the people present that day. Not a bad answer, Alois. The wolf has been standing there like a statue, not looking like he was paying much attention to the body. As soon as he started talking, however, it became evident this hasn't been the case. There's one thing I found strange. Mr. Siblings knew this Martha because she was employed by their father, yes. Correct. Was this the case at the same time she was employed by the museum? Correct again. I haven't been to your country of origin, so I'm basing this on what I have read of the outside world. I understand it's not common for women of that age to work multiple jobs unless they're in a financially tight situation. Perhaps she owed a debt to the wrong people or had an ill relative. Either way, it sounds like she was pressed for money. I suppose this is why she decided to make a move on the younger brother and keep it a secret from her father. Well, it might be true, but does it relate to the crime? She would have been better off trying to seduce the boy than killing him. Or you think the police's theory was a solution? Not quite, Abbott. She didn't have any reason to carry out the crime herself, but her circumstances did make her easily influenced. The real killer, that is to say, the older brother, could have sweet-talked her into this plot to get rid of his sibling with the promise of money. This way, the crime would be impossible for him, and she would have no more of lifting suspicion from the both of them. I'm guessing the deal fell through somehow, however, and she confessed. Maybe she broke under the pressure of being the prime suspect of the older brother didn't fulfill his part of the deal. I think it was both of those. Very well. Very good, Alois. You're exactly right. Seriously? You need to try a bit harder, Uncle. Excuse me. Alvaro, if you are done picking fights, could retire to our quarters for the night. I'm so tired. I'm sorry, Brandis. Of course. Not good. What can I do now? The abbot started getting up from their table. Luca helped Diego get on his feet, as he seemed to have trouble standing. Do you drink too much, Diego? How strange. It was just one. Diego heard something drip down to the floor and saw Lucas' eyes and mouth open with a mix of fear and surprise. When he looked down, he noticed a red drop on the bench. And then another, and another. He suddenly noticed how hoarse his throat felt, and when he tried to unbutton his jacket, noticed how purple and strong the lips of his fingers were. His vision went black. The last thing he felt was a dull impact as he collapsed on the table, knocking over his plate cup and the empty wine bottle. Oh. The gun deck fell in silence as everyone watched Diego tumble over and fall. Only Lucas' voice broke through the silence. Diego! What the hell did just happen? I don't know. He was alright just a second ago. Lucas grabbed the fire abbot from his shoulders and turned him around. The way he recoiled at the sight of his empty eyes and bloody face told everyone all they needed. He's dead. Don't move. The captain shouted when he noticed Brandis and Alvaro walk away. He pulled his gun out and aimed it at them. Hunters immediately reached for their weapons, but hesitated when they noticed the seamen and mates were all the way up and keeping an eye on them. Hotaru turned to Layla and Jezreel and told him to stand down. "What is the meaning of this, Captain?" I should be the one asking. "Where are you going?" "I'm just tired. I want to go to sleep." "Stay right where you are, Brandis." It wasn't hard to figure out what was going through the captain's mind. The Abbey murder case wasn't over yet, and the most obvious suspects were those who had been at the Abbey and had been sitting next to the victim, the three remaining abbots. A few seamen surrounded Brandis and Alvaro as the captain got closer to inspect the corpse. "We were silent, Luca." The captain reached out for Luca's shoulder, and then, as if he was nothing but a ragdoll, the captain went flying backward and patted against the wall. His gun flew off his hand and fell to the floor. "Everyone, run!" The werewolf had the best view of what had just happened, so he was the first one to shout. He had seen with complete clarity the rocky arm that pushed the captain away, as well as the one that was now grabbing Luca's skull. He saw how those clawed fingers dug into his hair, then his skull, producing a clumsy noise as the abbot resisted by punching the rocky appendage and letting out a gargled scream. Once he finally went limp, his corpse got tossed aside as the deformed creature, Diego's corpse, had turned to attempt to rise to its feet. By then, the hunters were already drawing their weapons and leaping at the monster. Alois pointed toward the captain. Why did he mutate? Does it matter? Get up, idiot!" "Alois!" "Get out here, Frank. We'll be right behind you." "But, House, hey!" "Get everyone out here, now!" On the captain's orders, the seamen started pushing everyone towards the stairs. Bonnie wanted to see what was happening, but with this many people getting in his way, that was going to be impossible, so he cooperated. He was the first to make it out of the communal area. As he went up the stairs, he caught a glimpse of Frank and the two remaining abbots behind him. Bonnie stepped into the dark and began running toward the passenger cabins. It seemed the seamen accompanying him were going to turn around to check on the people behind them when a sharp noise rang out. Another explosive warned that was at least to push the door to the main deck open. There had been a second death, but she didn't have time to think about that. There was some movement near the staircase leading down to the gun deck. A closer look revealed that it was a group of people gathered around two bodies. Brandon sat on the floor and away from the crowd. His king immediately away from him and a gasp expressed on his face. And the bodies were Alvaro and Alois. No, that wasn't quite it. While Alvaro wasn't moving a single muscle, Alois was still breathing and groaning. Frank and Bonnie were kneeling next to them, holding him as he gasped for his wound, trying to keep more blood from leaking out. "Yeah, easy, Alois. Don't move too much. It's a time, Alicia. Can you give us a hand? I'll explain what happened later. We need to help him first." "Right. Can you move him to the passenger cabin's body? And you guys, is there any first aid equipment on the ship?" With the help of the seamen, Bonnie transported Alois to his room and laid him down in bed. On the way there, Alicia heard the third thunder from Alvaro's death. She still liked the idea that she was growing accustomed to whatever those explosives were, but there were more pressing matters to worry about. Alicia wasn't too experienced treating bullet wounds, but she figured as long as she managed to extract the bullet, she would be able to seal the wound. The tools in the first aid kit proved to be sufficient for her to do that much, although not without making a werewolf squirm some. After disinfecting the wound, she took off her gloves, raised her hands, and started rubbing them together. "Please, her, let this still work." Alicia started praying to the deity of healing, closed her eyes and concentrating. At first, nothing unusual seemed to happen, but eventually, a spark lashed out from between her palms. She kept at it until her hands were shining with a warm green light. Eyes still closed, Elisa placed them over the wound of the rebel's shoulders. Body smiled with admiration as he witnessed the tissue, the skin, and the fur regenerate in front of his very eyes. That's enough, Alicia. The hybrid woman's arms fell limp. She almost tumbled over, but Body caught her and held her up. Be careful without soda, Lois. I'm out of practice, sure, but it'll still hurt if you move it too much. Thank you, I thought. The werewolf shook his head. No, nothing. You should rest now, Alicia. I agree. Get better. I figured the captain would want to speak with us soon. And Lois, so you catch some rest too. Elisa showed Body the file before taking a nap. The crocodile sat down, read through it until Seaman knocked at her door. The captain was summoning them. Everyone who had been present at the congregation in the gun deck was there. The captain now had a bandaged arm and left where he walked. He looked at the two knockmonks, the detective, the seamen who had been there, the hunters, and finally at Brandis. So it seems Santiago was wrong. Not only they arrested the wrong guy, but the killer made it into the ship. It's gotta be one of us that was at the party. The captain pointed at Alicia, who had raised her hand. Do you have something to say? Yes, I wasn't there when the murder took place, but Body gave me the short version. I'll be straightforward. I think Brandon is behind this. To Alicia's surprise, it was only the oldest hunter that darted a glare of approval at her. Everyone else was surprised, but at her bringing it up right off the gate. The old man simply sighed and shook his head. First, all my fellow abbots died, and now I have to come under suspicion. Body and I were suspecting one of the abbots was behind this ever since we were back at the abbey. Body made a prediction back then that if you had a certain item in your possession we bought a ship, then it would make sense for one of you to be the culprit. Brandon's face grew pale when the crocodile produced William's file from one of his pockets. Eyes fixated on the old man, Body stepped forward and handed it over to the captain. What is this? A very curious collection of news articles and contracts William compiled, it would seem. There's everything here: robbery, assassination, contracts, blackmailing, underground deals. Initially I thought the file would contain a single document the abbots would not see the light of day, but there's much more. The captain started skimming through the many contracts and news articles attached to them that were inside the folder. Brandis hit the floor with his cane, his lips twitching. This doesn't have anything to do with what happened here. I didn't kill anybody. Besides, how do you know these documents are authentic? If you have any doubts, we could turn back and go ask Lacusti. He was the one who placed the seal of preservation on them, so he has seen them before. I understand the Senate might misunderstand mortal affairs, but you wouldn't suggest he was lying, right? Excuse me, I have something to say. A lawyer stepped forward and the captain raised his eyes from the file briefly to permit him to speak. Do you remember what happened when we were escaping from the abomination, Captain? I was barely conscious, so I didn't see anything. All I remember was you killing me. Then I felt the rain follow me. Right after a gunshot rang, I hit the floor, and before passing out, I heard a second gunshot. Yes, we were right behind the abbots when the gunshot rang out. Funny the detective and the seamen were all hailed the abbots. I couldn't see more than silhouettes, but I certainly saw a flash of light and then a Avila collapsing. Brandis must have shot him at point blank. There's no other explanation. And that's why he jumped ahead to try to stop Brandis, I see. In the end, we were unable to find the gun he used. He must have thrown it to the sea after shooting you. Let's not forget he was in the most convenient position to poison Diego too. But besides Brandis, the captain lowered his file and took a step toward the old man. We still don't know what caused Diego to mutate. It's the churches that tell us all the time that abominations are created when people fall for the temptations ordered by the demons. If that's true, how can we trust you after that? Just keeping Avila and Lucas' corpses here is a risk now. You should be grateful we didn't throw them overboard already. Brandis gritted his teeth, unable to come up with a retort. If you are innocent, then I'm truly sorry, Abbott. You will have to sleep at the cargo hold tonight. Think of it as a measure for your safety, both yours and ours. If you are innocent, the police will prove it once we reach land. I'll keep this if you don't mind, Detective. Yes, to be honest, I'd like to sleep for what remains of our journey. Barney turned around and started making his way back to his quarters. Lisa stood there awkwardly for an instant before following him. Two seamen had to restrain Brandis to take him to the cargo hold as the old man swung his cane trying to hit them on the centers of the head. What remained of the trip was uneventful. Without much else to do, the hunters spent their time drinking or playing cards in the communal area. Dark monks went to pay their respects to Avila. Barney slept most of the time until they reached land, and this afternoon on disappearing for a while to go talk to the captain according to him. Elisa was still thinking about the conversations he had with Frank and wondered about the strange things that had been happening since he arrived at the Abbey. She recalled the sound's words, but still couldn't make sense out of them. Perhaps they all had been a normal dream and she should forget about it. Still, the pit in her stomach was growing bigger with each passing hour. Was she really worried about just her dream? Was there anything about the case that hadn't settled well with her? Something was off, but she couldn't put it into words. Regardless, once they reached land, the police were called and the captain explained the situation to them. It took some convincing as well as showing them Williams' file, but ultimately Brandis was arrested. It's hard to say what this would mean for the churches in the future, but Elisa was glad she and Buddy had come out of this affair unscratched. As they made their way down the boarding bridge, Elisa decided to ask Buddy one of the main questions orbiting her mind as of late. Buddy, are you sad? About what? Well, your uncle just died in front of you. I don't know. Are you handling that well? Buddy gave her his usual grin of amused surprise. Don't worry about me, Elisa. I hadn't seen the guy in years and our time together was scarce and unpleasant. I must be sorry if I learned something happened to your dad. Oh. Down the harbor, Elisa noticed the area around the ship was still cordoned off and the police were still around. It would probably remain like this until they finished the early examination and the new victims would move the bodies. Brandis had been taken away. And she also got the impression they were on edge. Did something else happen here before we arrived? No, but something will happen soon. What is that? The Tainer asked for a killer, of course. Wait, so Brandis didn't kill anyone? There's a good chance he did. If fingerprint analysis on the book in which you found the file will reveal who had it and point us toward Oscar's killer, who might be Brandis. But as for everyone else, Brandis or any of the other Evans didn't kill them. Then Who did it? He did it. Body nodded toward the two people just a bit ahead of him. Hello, Detective Elisa. Are you guys alright? We haven't had a chance since last night's incident. Yes, thank you for asking. Otherwise, I need to have a word with you. We already know you are behind the deaths of William, Giorgio, and the victims of yesterday's incident. His jaw dropped as he turned to look at the werewolf. Aloy's hand moved an inch, impassible as always. I see. I suppose that explains all the good officers still on the premises. A werewolf being arrested on a charge of murder is unprecedented, and no doubt it would be dangerous were they to offer resistance. He stood up from the bench. Although I suppose that always happened back in the church, no. When did you notice it was me, Detective? What's going on with this guy? Body just accused him and he admits it like it means nothing? Considering the gravity of this crime, he'll be executed as punishment. Why is he not fighting back? Guilty or innocent, anyone would try to defend themselves. We can talk about that later. I can talk about that later if I feel like it. I'm the one asking the questions. The police officers had closed and formed a circle encasing the detectives and the monks. You can go, Frank. Don't think you can get out of this harbor, however. We still have some questions for you. The man flinched as his body had just snapped his mandible close in front of him. He lowered his head and slowly walked away from the scene. There isn't much to say about the first two murders. I'm certain they played out just as Santiago said, except with you doing the killing style with Mitchell. Still, with Mitchell did give you a hand. To be precise, he aided you in getting a master key and an alibi. But how did you know it was Aloys and not with Mitchell? Sure, Aloys was caught going out that night, but that's not enough to say it was him. It all comes back to Oscar's murder. We'll get there, but first we need to say something about Giorgio's death. I have been worried of Emilio ever since our first talk with him. He watched Giorgio bring it to Abby White before we asked him about it, and then he forgot to mention it to Santiago or anyone else. It sounded like a story he had made up. Still, given the lack of leads back then, I figured we didn't have any option other than checking it out. A problem arose when Giorgio actually turned up dead. Why would Remigio warn us that there was going to be another murder? He might have been telling the truth, but another possibility was that he wanted to create witness. What for? To make us notice the master key trick Santiago figured out. Think about it. Why was the door to the study closed when it normally shouldn't be? I always wanted the trick to be noticed. I imagine that's also why Remigio didn't bring any of this up to defend himself during his trial. He willingly took the blame to help Aloys complete the crimes. But there was another objective he pursued through George's murder, to make us fall for a false narrative and push it for him. Housetop. Yes, that was my main objective with George's murder. The ransacked study and the open safe were left that way to push you toward a particular conclusion. That both Giorgio and the culprit had come to the study for the same reason, the contents of the safe. I suppose that's true, but we didn't know what to make out of that until we found that page after Oscar's murder. Was that also part of your plan? No, that page making it to you was pure coincidence. It didn't mean much to us before Oscar's death, yes. But it did for another group of people, the Abbotts. How did they know about it? This fellow you guys speak of is some sort of insurance. Of a promise, rather. One thing I learned while reading about the old world is that the promise of mutual destruction is often a good way to stop the greediest men from obeying their impulses. Each of the Abbotts had their skeletons in their closets. The purpose of their fire was to ensure none of them would try to expose each other, for if they did, their secrets could be revealed in retaliation. We were seeing Brandon's never considered one of them might bite the dust before picking a trustworthy successor. You know a lot about the church's inner workings, don't you? Aloy didn't answer, but Lisa could have sworn she saw a grin flash in his face for just an instant. So, William not only wasn't easy for his target, but also a tour de force for other abbots to stay, since leaving the abbey without recovering the file first would have represented too big of a risk. The abbots were the only ones that still have known of the file, and the fact that it was missing from the crime scene led to a certain conclusion. One of them must have killed Giorgio to keep the file for some ulterior motive. You were counting on them following this line of logic, weren't you? Well, yes. We can think about it rationally, and while the abbots were to betray the rest, they don't have much to gain from obtaining William's file. But in this case, we are talking about very elderly men, some of them being over 8 years old. For normal humans at that age, rational thinking usually gets thrown out the window. And to top it off, from this whole system one could glance that there was a pre-existing distrust between the abbots. And they needed to do much to make them turn on each other. Do you mean Oscar's murder? You might remember Aloy's had an airtight alibi for that murder, because he chose to instigate someone else to commit it instead of doing it himself. I admit that was a bit on my part, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It cleared me of suspicion of my biggest moment of need. Were you the one who prepared the box that was taken to Oscar's cell? No, but smuggling something into the box wouldn't be difficult for any monk. My master and I retrieved the file the same night William died, which is why we asked to use the library for the training that night. And the fire spread to the church, retrieving the file could have been very complicated, depending on the resulting structural damage, so that was the first step. That way, in the worst case scenario, we just need to lure Giorgio to a different location. In any case, I figured Oscar didn't find a file, but Brandis or some other abbot did while searching the room to confirm their suspicions. And the resulting paranoia pushed them to get rid of Oscar. And by that point, they would have recovered the file. So that's why they suddenly wanted to leave after Oscar died. Barty nodded. As for what happened on the ship, that's simple when we take into account your qualifications. All those hand motions you did during the war magic demonstration were to hide the fact that you were poisoning your water. Then when you intentionally made some of the poison drops fall on Diego's cup while we were distracted, you still have the poison on you, don't you? Aloy searched inside one of the sleeves. One of the officers reached out for his gun, but Barty signaled him to stop that. The werewolf pulled out what looked like a small bag tied to his arm by a string. The werewolf cut the string and tossed it back at the crocodile. It looked like the drug Alicia had prepared for the custody, but no doubt the mixture could kill a grown man in a matter of minutes. I suspect that the culprit would have something like this if they were a monk. I'm surprised you waited so long before using it. No reason to play your trump card so early in the game, no. Barty handed over to one of the officers. Diego turning into an abomination took even you by surprise, but that didn't stop you from improvising. You stayed behind to help the captain, but while he was dazed and the hunters were busy with the abomination, you stole his gun. You shot Alvaro from afar, dropped the captain, and tackled Brandis before shooting yourself in the shoulder. You were aware of Lisa's background, so you did this to make yourself less suspicious and because you knew there wasn't much actual risk. Finally, you threw the gun down the stairs. When the captain recovered it earlier, he didn't even consider it had been the weapon he used in the crime. Not until I suggested so, at least. I believe the truth about the crimes is clear enough, but I still have questions. For instance, What was your objective with the threatening letters? William never saw those. Remigio placed them in his study the night after the fire. Someone investigating this crime was an important part of the plan. I suspect that Abbots would try to halt the police's investigation until they secured William's file, so I fabricated those letters. They were meant to call Maggie. They were meant to have Maggie call someone like you to the Abbey. Does their design hold a meaning? His question, although he simply smiled. But he took note of something in his notebook. Are you aware Brandis was in possession a part of a destroyed glove like the ones used by the cement monks? When I committed George's murder, I changed into my human form and asked her not leave fur anywhere. But I was careless and destroyed one of the gloves I was wearing when turning back. I tried to collect all the pieces, but in my hurry, I must have left some behind. Brandis must have found them while snooping around the church. I see. When do you notice it was me, Detective? Then again, well, I'm curious about that as well. And realized it was you the morning after Oscar died. Something didn't make sense to me about that letter you sold us. But I took a moment to think his next words over. There was nothing strange about the letter itself, but that collar of yours will provide all the means of communication you could need to contact Knock. I noticed what you had done was a trick for someone not very well versed in the customs of the Church of Knock. Yes, it was unfortunate Maggie called you of all people. I knew that far back. I guess we didn't have any evidence on Lois back then, but still. Come to think of it, he did mention he wanted to obtain the file before offense in the case. I thought it was because he suspected it would prove the Abbott's culpability, but perhaps there was another objective. What did he think would have happened if we had exposed the lawyers without obtaining the file first? More importantly, I have a question. What is it, Lisa? How do you know all this, Alois? Yeah, I believe you got all this just from being a monk. I can't believe you got all this just from being a not monk, no matter how much you guys meddle with secrets. Didn't I just say Alois could contact a knot whenever he wanted Alicia? Huh? Then, yes, consider even my uncle is dead. The only person I can think of that could provide Alois with all this information was Knock himself. And the letter Alois sold as a genuine, it's possible Knock himself sent it to aid him. But why on earth would Knock do something like that? His abbot died and there's no telling what would happen with the churches, including his own. That's the last thing I want to know, Alois. Why did you do this? Could it be that you are related to one of the abbot's main victims? Or was there more to it than revenge? Did Knock merely help you, or did he put you up to this? The werewolf looked down and, after a while, placed his hands on the sides of his mask and removed it. There's one thing you didn't figure out about Remigio and me, Detective. It was mentioned that Remigio was related to the former Abbot 5, remember? I see. They also mentioned that Abbott's children were missing. Are you one of them? Yes. I didn't know about this either until a few years back just before I moved to Smith's Abbey. Now told me that truth, among many others. That's how I managed to get Remigio on my side. So it was revenge. For Remigio, perhaps. After learning the kind of people the Abbots are, I can't say I care much for a visit to my family. Especially since I don't have any memory of them. I don't resent this either. I've enjoyed a satisfying life so far. I killed the Abbots to make a point. What do you mean? I could explain, but I believe you will realize what it was by yourself soon enough. You really are an interesting fellow. I'm afraid I'm done answering questions, Detective. If you have any more doubts, well, You can figure it out yourself or wait until my trial. Whichever happens first. Now, shall we go, officers? Alois outstretched his hands, but no one stepped up to apprehend him. By his side, put away his pencil and notebook and asked for a pair of cuffs to the nearby officers. He cuffed Alois, and only then did the officers get closer to grab him by the shoulders. They started walking away just to stop suddenly after a few steps. Alois looked back at the investigators. Oh yes, one last thing. Elisa, Frank told me you guys had a conversation last night. Excuse me for intruding, but is your father's name Well by any chance? Do you know him? I don't know how your relationship with him currently is, but I too once wanted to reunite with my family when I was little. There's a city in the south of Nova America called Plata. If you go there at the end of the month, you might stumble upon your family. What? That's enough. Start walking. Alois relented and let himself be dragged away by the officers. They stopped again after a few steps so the rebels could say something to Frank, who had been observing the scene from far away. Frank shook his head, and after an instant, Alois and the officers resumed their march out of the harbor. I wonder if what he said about my father is true. It's hard to tell. We saw the murders, but it feels like we only scratched the surface of mystery surrounding that boy. Something tells me the outcome of this won't be as simple as him getting executed. 7-hour duty ends once a culprit is apprehended. I don't envy the police at all. Do you think they'll let him live? Considering his connection to Knock, that might be their only choice. Buddy and Alicia walked up to Frank. The young monk was standing still looking down at his feet, his mouth twisted into a grimace. Frank? Or it's you two. Hello? You don't look very happy, or you shot that Alois turned out to be the killer. The monk turned to the crocodile, then his gaze fell to the floor again. Buddy scratched his head. Do you not know if something strange was happening with him? And do you hide it out of fear? We wouldn't be the first, so I'm sorry, detective, but I don't have anything to tell you right now. Frank's words cut through Buddy's words like they were air. This made the crocodile pause and then let out a pensive hum. Why is that? I don't need to play this role anymore, that's all. Frank grabbed his mask and started removing it. As he did, the light around them was drowned out by a cloud of mist surrounding them. Both the investigators took a step back as Frank's figure seemed to melt away, transforming into a cloud before being sucked into a spiral and forming. By the time he tossed his mask, a different creature was standing in his place. The remaining officers got closer when they noticed what was happening, but lowered their guns once they noticed what they were looking at. I don't need this anymore either. And the Senate, we probably won't meet again, so take this as thanks for the little friendship we've shared these last few days. This place doesn't have much time left, so make the most out of the next few weeks, okay? And then the next instant, he was gone. Where the Senate stood was now a large, pointy, and wet boulder. Elisa rolled her eyes in disbelief. What the hell did just happen? The mist cleared up and the officer stepped closer. I was about to ask the same thing. Let's just add that to the list of unanswered questions related to this case. Buddy spent the following minutes explaining what had transpired for the officers to add it to their report. After that, he and Elisa got permission to get out of the harbor while they finished their work there. It was time to go to the city and buy a snack. After an hour or two of window shopping and arguing what to get, they ended up settling with some cotton candy before returning to the harbor. I can't wait to get home. How long did it take you to get here from there anyway? It's not that long of a trip on the carriage. We were lucky we could get a train ride. So we get going then? Have you lost your mind, Ellie? We still need to collect our paycheck. Oh right, sorry, I'm still dazed from all that happened. Where's she getting here anyway? She said she'd be just a couple of hours behind our schedule, so I'm guessing she'll be here any time now. It took around another hour of meandering before a small ship appeared on the horizon. Once in the dock, two people got off to be welcomed by the investigators. I hope you weren't waiting for us for too long, buddy. We kind of were. Not at all. It's good to see you made it here safe, you two. I couldn't help but notice part of the harbor is cordoned off. What happened? So Lois was behind all those terrible crimes? I can't believe it. He was always a strange kid, but I wouldn't have guessed he'd be driven to kill so many people. Even a tent often isn't visible to the naked eye, Maggie. And Lois never showed much of what he thought. I guess now we know why. I suppose so. On a different topic, what would happen to Brandis? I don't think he'll return to Tim's church as an abbot after this. Not even if he's found innocent for Oscar's murder. Part of the responsibility will fall on him, I believe. All this was possible partially because of the flaws of this file system he came up with. At least if Alois was telling the truth about that. I think his reputation would be ruined soon enough regardless. Perhaps. How was Frank taking the news incidentally? Oh, Bernardo, we have much to tell you. A sinister chuckle would rumble out of Buddy's throat. After finishing catching up, Megan delivered the promised payment and thanked the investigators for their work. Although they had been unable to prevent further tragedy, she was nonetheless happy to see light had been set on William's death. With looking into her eyes, Lisa couldn't help but think she had learned more than she had bargained for. Nonetheless, they accepted the payment and went their way alongside their recruit Bernardo. There was still much they didn't understand about the case, and Lisa couldn't get Alois's last words for her out of her head. But she and Maggie Hybrid thought this might have been acceptable. Maybe the full picture would have turned out to be much more than what they had bargained for. At least it was right. Her only fatal mistake was failing to notice they always had been set on the path that would lead them to the truth. I wake up on the cold floor. I saw my body aching until I get back on my feet. What did just happen? Who are those people? Were those my memories? Just thinking about it, it's starting to give me a headache. I look at the small machine in my hand and I notice there's something hanging from a hole that runs from its upper to lower end. It looks like a red thread. A clip resonates through the room. I look around, searching for the source. I don't see anything, but then an idea comes to me. With holding my chest, I walk up to the room's door and slowly I try to open it. The knob offers no resistance, nor does the door once I push it. After hearing the most relieving creak in my life, I take a deep breath and step out of the room. The only issue now is that I still don't know where I am. Before me is a hallway that continues until I can't see its end, lined up with a rusty iron railing and what looks like boarded out rooms. It's still as dark as it was inside that bedroom. What is with this architecture? It all looks completely different from the room I was just in. Is this some kind of factory or prison? I walk down the corridor, examining my surroundings for inside life. I can't imagine anyone has ever been here in years. Did the bedroom's door open because the oval machine got turned on? In that case, maybe I could use it to get out of this place too. It's been a few minutes and I still don't see where the corridor ends. But my host gets sad as I notice the device is responsive again. The little red thread going through it is gone. I just don't understand. The fear I had been feeling when I first woke up in that bed was slowly being replaced with frustration and annoyance. Why can't I remember anything? How the hell did I end up in such a bizarre place? Fine, since you insist so much, I'll show you something nice. Take this as my token of gratitude for you, traitor. Huh? What is that? Another memory? I bolt up and look at my hand. The little device is on. When I look at the screen, what I see baffles me. Go this way? The screen is now displaying a rather crude drawing of a compass pointing behind me. I try sticking it and notice the compass's arrow moves as I do. But why is it telling me to go back all of a sudden? I look up from the screen and I realize the path in front of me is growing darker. It grows darker and darker until it looks like a solid black wall. Then I see two red eyes open and look at me from inside that darkness. I don't have time to think. Wherever that is, my neurons immediately fire up and tell me it's terrible news. I turn around and I run away. Hear the device do that annoying sound again as if trying to get my attention. The screen now tells me to take a turn to the right. I do as it says and end up in another hallway identical to the one I was just in. I can hear something like a wave coming for me from behind, so I keep going without thinking. After a few more turns and corridors, I arrive at a staircase leading down to a long door. I almost fall making my way down, and once I'm there, I throw the door open. And then I slam it shut behind me. I find myself in a large empty room with what looks like a fountain at the center. Out of breath, I climb down another couple of stairs and I get closer. My feet get wet as I use the lower parts of the fountain as steps. The water has a wet tint to it, and the device seems to tremble in response to me getting close to it. I let go of it, and it floats above the fountain. Suddenly, countless threads manifest through it, rising from the fountain to the invisible ceiling. The screen glows green before turning off again. I remember the sensation. It is waiting for me to touch it. I suppose I'm not getting to the bottom of this mystery without doing this. If this goes like last time, the device will show me more visions. Among them, there could be clues about my situation. Perhaps it is a stretch, but what other choice do I have? Besides, exploring outside seems like a poor idea right now. After I sigh, I reach out with my scorched arm to the device. I don't know what it has in store for me, but I tend to get answers this time. My vision flashes as I'm pulled into a new world, and this time I can tell there's a presence here. I don't know if it's coming from inside the machine or from wherever place I'll go to next. But wherever I end up, I will not alone be. But wherever I end up, I will not be alone. So we're done with chapter 1. Like the message just said. Before I talk about that scene with whoever that was with the device going to the dark corridors, I'm going to talk about the ending of chapter 1. So Alois is a murderer. He committed the murders of the abbots, and apparently the reason why he did it, he said he wasn't all that close with his family. He never really knew them, but apparently something bad happened to his family. I think some murders happened to them, which is why he ended up at the orphanage. So that could play a part in the reason why he wanted to get back at them, the abbots. But he also said that the abbots had some really. He said the abbots had some skeletons in their closet and that they were bad people, and that he didn't like the abbots, what they were doing. So he killed them as a way of him making his point. Like he said, he did the killings to make a point. He did not quite elaborate what that point was. So considering that he is close to Nock, who is the god, one of the 7 gods that the world worships, I don't think he'll be executed. To figure out more about Nock himself, they probably want Alois to stay alive. And about Frank, he turned out to be a shapeshifter. Well, not a shapeshifter, but he turned out to be a descendant posing as a human. He's not what he will. And the descendant said that he didn't need to play this role anymore. So apparently, whatever he was there for, his mission was accomplished. And while he was posing as Frank, he did seem to have to be pretty sad throughout the chapter because he knew something bad was about to happen. He didn't like the fact that all these people that he talked to and met, such as Alois and Elisa and all of them, are going to something bad is going to happen. But I'm assuming the world is about to get destroyed. So yeah, it's very sad that all of them will die unless something else happens and their world is getting saved. So there's, I think, like 19 or 18 days left until I guess the world gets destroyed somehow. Or humanity anyway. Humanity somehow gets destroyed. And about Elisa, she said she had dreams about a lizard with feathers. So, and that was, she was playing with that lizard with feathers, this boy. And it's quite obvious by the description that lizard with feathers is sex. Because remember back in the prologue between, in the prologue with Sax and Nerus' story, Sax told Nerus that he didn't like the way his family operated because he would befriend humans, well, mortals. He would befriend mortals and he would grow to have good friendships with them, and that he felt very sad about what would happen, about what he had to do, and that he would end up betraying them. All the mortals that he formed relationships and trust with. And In that part when Elisa described the dreams he was having, that immediately reminded me of sex. Because that was exactly what Sats told Nerus about the way his family operated, and it was his experiences in the family as well. So there's a connection going on between Sax and Nerus and Elisa and Bidey, because while Elisa and Bidey are mortals, Sax and Nerus are not, so they can live throughout different time periods. So certainly Elisa, I don't know. I think I don't think it was she really experienced sex in real life, but like in dreams, she saw sex in real life and how friendly and outgoing his being, and that she always noticed that sex would get really sad because he knew he would have to betray him once they no longer serve the purpose. Was no longer serving the purpose that his family would betray him. So I don't think this is gonna be the last time we see a body of Lisa or Sats and Nerus. But I don't think. Wait a minute. I don't think it'll be the last time we get to see Body and Elisa at all. I think we'll be seeing them again soon. After a while, there's only 19 or 18 days left until something happens. Pretty sure in the future we'll figure out what happened to them. So it looks like Bernardo will be accompanying Bonnie and Alicia on a mystery, so I'm happy that Bernardo has a new job now. Well, at least there's something for him now that he got fired from the police on that island, or at least that's what I'm assuming what happened. So that's all we have to say for Nerus. For now. So we completed the prologue and then we completed chapter 1. The next time we come back here to Nerus, we will begin chapter 2. What's in chapter 2, we have to figure out when I come back to this next time. On the scene after chapter 1 ends, this person is in a bedroom and I guess he woken up or something, and he said that he didn't know those people. He's referring to Elisa and Bitey. So how is he able to look at Elisa and Bitey in their story? Elisa, as I said, Elisa was able to have a dream where she experienced a lizard feathery person named Sax, and the way he treated people. So could this person be sort of similar to Elisa, where he's able to look at different people, perhaps through different ages, and see what they're going through and stuff like that. I have no idea. It could be, though. This person is kind of similar to Alicia in that way. And apparently this person has some little gadget. I think as the game continues, we'll figure out more information about who this person possibly could be, and what place in this big, sprawling, dark place he's in, what kind of place could it be? So, all the information for the game is in the description box below, including the Twitter, where you can look at the progress of the game and see new information about new updates becoming public. You also go to Patreon, where you can watch new updates before they become public. That way you support the game. I don't have it listed in my description box, but there's also a coffee. You like to make one-time donations. There's no perks to being on coffee, but you just want to throw a donation to the creator as a thanks. You can do that. So the next time we will begin chapter 2 and see what chapter 2 may have. See what chapter 2 may have to add to this story concerning Saxon, Nerus, and Alicia and Bitey. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.